manga has pretty much driven all the growth within the North American comic book market for a few years now. And it's not just younger readers who kind of grown up on different styles of graphic novels moving over into manga itself, or maybe grew up on anime. It's all over Netflix, and that's kind of a gateway into manga. There are actually a ton of readers that grew up on American comic books, DC, Marvel, superhero comics, that have transitioned out of American comics into manga as a viable alternative to some of the issues that they personally see within comic books. And one of the main concerns or the main complaints that you will hear from lifelong comic book readers who have abandoned modern comics or even made their transition over to manga is the amount of political messaging. I'll call it messaging, although you could call it propaganda, that is infiltrating and overtaking the American comic book industry. And a lot of them have found sanctuary in manga itself as a viable alternative. It's obviously different. It reads right to left. It's black and white. The panels are essentially one page, and they're sold and consumed a little bit different. But typically, you can get your superhero stories there. And manga, I don't want to sell it short. The amount of genres that are over there in manga are absolutely enormous. One of the arguments, the logical fallacies that you will hear from a lot of people who, I don't know, I guess they want to denigrate people for moving on from U.S. comics are that comic books have always been political, as this catch-all statement, as if every single U.S. Made comic book in the history of the industry was always political in nature, that it was always a political statement to make a comic book, which obviously is a fallacy. There have always been social commentary. There have been politically themed comic books, where that part would have been at the forefront. But not every single comic book was political in nature. And a lot of times, if there were politics in the comic books, that wasn't the driving force of the comic. It was just added value to the story. It added to the story, the environment, the universe that they were building. Nowadays, you're getting hit on the head with a sledgehammer within a lot of North American comic books with a lot of characters that doesn't make a lot of sense. But as you might expect, we are now hearing manga has always been political, and Western readers just never got it before. Obviously, this is just as ridiculous, if not more ridiculous, than the first statement. I'm going to definitely get into that. If you are unaware, my name is Wes. I'm the host here at Thinking Critical YouTube. If you like comic book reviews, news, opinions, this likely is a channel for you. Consider subscribing, hit the bell for notifications if you wouldn't mind, and we'll have these fun conversations more often. Now, as far as manga goes, there are a ton of genres, and just like comic books, there are certainly mangas that are political themes, or maybe current modern day politics are a driving force of the story. Hey, no one's claiming the Watchmen doesn't have political tones or messaging, or even have people making political statements. What's interesting about Watchmen, because you have Alan Moore, one of the greatest comic book writers of all time, is he presents characters from both as somewhat equal, right? They get to talk to each other, make their points, and neither one is, generally speaking, considered villainous because of that. They're villainous because of their actions. A lot of characters nowadays in comic books. When's the last time you saw a hero in an American comic book that said something that sounded like it might be conservative in nature? Of course, a lot of people on this channel will be like, but that's alt-right. Whatever, man. Everything's alt-right, and of course, everything's SJW. These big overarching terms that mean nothing anymore because people use them too much. But you just don't see that in American comic books. You used to see it a lot. And it's just not all that prevalent. So a lot of people have said, you know what, screw this. I don't really want to do this. I'm paying money for these damn things. It's my money. I want stories that I like. I don't want to be bogged down in all this crap. And I'm really not all that interested in what the writer wants me to think about politics. I'm not really interested in the writer's Twitter feed, which seems to, a lot of times, infiltrate their actual comic book. And, you have whatever hero they're using essentially as a sounding board for the comic writer. So when you read something like a Captain America by Christopher Can't Write Well, You're like, who the hell is this? This isn't Captain America. This is Christopher Can't Write Well talking about his views of America. It's not Captain America, and it ruins the character. And it basically turns people off, and they have fled over to manga. And we cannot have that. People are not allowed to have fun without thinking about modern day politics and all the bullcrap that's going out there. It's infiltrated. News 24/7, you can't get away from it. Everybody's got completely biased. We no longer have news anymore. We just have opinions out there. It's absolutely insane. And you're just inundated. A lot of people are tired of it. I don't want that crap. If I'm paying for it, I want to be entertained. If there's some political themes to it or a political thriller that's used to entertain me, I'm all for it. But I'm tired of being hit over the sledgehammer. See also Tom Taylor's Superman Son of Kal-El. Issue number 2. That one's the worst one. It's definitely going to be in my top 10 issues of worst comics of the year. Spoilers. That video will be out before the end of the year. American comic book industry knows that they are losing a ton of readers to their competitors. And one of the reasons that they are is because people are tired of that, so they can't have it. So you have somebody like a Screentrant with this stupid headline, manga has always been political, Western readers just never realized it, because Western readers are too stupid to realize that they are being inundated with the political leanings of Japanese modern-day politics. And some of these examples that they give are absolutely ridiculous. But I will say this before I get into the examples. I talked to a lot of people. One of my good friends, from my military days, he was always bringing in graphic novels. He was bringing Red Sun, Dark Knight Returns, All-Star Superman, all that kind of stuff. He was in the Navy. His name was Shazam. Who do you think he nicknamed himself after? He was an enormous comic book fan. When I started my channel, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, Robert, you want to come on the channel and talk comic books? He said, I don't read comics anymore. Now, mind you, Robert is not a conservative by any means. I said, you don't read comic books. That's all you used to talk about. He said, no, I just read manga now. I said, why is that? He goes, American comics got too expensive, and I got tired of the politics. Well, very interesting. This wasn't a viewer that agrees with some of the things that I say here on the channel. This is a friend of mine when I was starting my channel out that had kind of got me into comic books. That was just giving up this information. I have another friend, James, a good friend from my military days. He's definitely conservative. He gave up comic books a long time ago. Same reasons. My good friend, Michael, who was my very first subscriber here on the channel. If Michael Maresca is watching, I remember you, brother. I miss you. He gave up comic books 9 months after I started my channel because he couldn't take it anymore. Not all these people have gone over to manga, but a lot of them have. And in order to stop that, you gotta tell them, listen, remember how we told you all American comic books were always political, you just didn't realize it, and you didn't stay anyway. Well, we're going to say it about manga and try to change your mind. Obviously, this isn't working. And it's really, it's pathetic in nature. I have no personal issues with Tim Seeley, but I do find him, he makes me chuckle, let's put it this way. And I do find it hilarious when he tries to attach the success of DC, Marvel, and the American comic book industry onto the success of manga and say, see, we're growing. And it's like, yeah, well, you're not growing. Manga's growing in North America. And people are moving from American comics into manga. And that's why so many people or so many publishers are having to do all these ratio variants and everything to pump up the sales. We basically sell comic books to retailers that they actually know they can't sell, so they can get their hands on all these variant covers. DC used to never do that. I wonder why they changed that, because they know that they're losing customers. So I always find it funny when Tim Seeley does that. I find it equally funny when I see a Screentrant or someone else try to go in there and be like, but manga was always political. People obviously see right through it, and there are lifelong manga readers that would have much better ways of explaining this. But I do read manga. I just don't read as much manga as I do American comics. But these are some of the examples. I'll give one or two of them here. The first one is Astro Boy is considered one of the very first modern manga. It was also unapologetically political. Ooh, let's read this. Known for being anti-war and pro-environment. I don't think being anti-war and pro-environment is a political like message. That's not pro propaganda. There are plenty of people that are anti-war, pro-environment on both sides of the aisle. Those are normal things to think about. Those are normal themes within movies, comic books, books, or whatever. There are plenty of movies. You go see Born on the 4th of July. I don't think I was supposed to think highly of war after I watched that movie. You think about pro-environment. There are a ton of movies with post-apocalyptic, futures. Think about Mad Max. I don't think of Mad Max as inherently a political statement. It certainly has a pro-environment message, but it's very entertaining. Now, I will say that Born on the 4th of July is absolutely has an anti-war theme to it. That is the message of that war, or that story, using that true story. And then it goes into saying, for manga fans who think these themes are too subtle or too general to really qualify as political, I guess you got me on that one. One story should remove all doubt. One story. 1969's The Angel of Vietnam by Tezuka sees Astro protecting a Vietnamese village from American forces during the height of America's involvement in the Vietnam War. Ooh. One story out of 112 chapters and 23 volumes was definitely political. It has to remove all doubt that Astro Boy, the entire collection, was political from day one. And that's the only purpose of the comic. That is absolutely ridiculous. And the other thing, people don't have a problem with political themes or even statements in the comic books. It's all modern politics being thrown in your face and basically knocking you over the head. That is unbearable at this point. I'm so tired of hearing about what the comic creators think about modern politics, and I think that's a lot of the complaints of the people that are leaving for manga. And this is literally a statement about something happened 50 years ago. Get out of here. That has nothing to do with modern politics. Making a political statement about Vietnam, who gives a shit about that? Yes, there are some Vietnam veterans, and I'm sure that could upset them. But for the vast majority of anybody, like, who cares if you have a stance on Vietnam? I think most people, after the fact, think it should have never happened. It was a mistake. That's not a hard statement to make. There's a couple other examples. I'm not going to do both of them. I don't think I have enough time. Let's do it this modern one. Attack on Titan. Alone should be enough to dispel any notions that manga is some mythical, apolitical medium. No one has ever said any entertainment is apolitical. That's absolutely ridiculous. Some entertainment is apolitical, but for the most part, there's not a whole lot of entertainment out there that doesn't have some type of politics in it. When you watch Star Wars, George Lucas designed the Empire, like, thematically after Nazi Germany. When you came away from watching Star Wars, you're like, wow, that was a powerful statement on Germany in World War II that George Lucas just made. No, because he used some themes, some iconography, and things to make you feel a certain way about things that really happened in his science fiction movie. That's why it's one of the greatest movies of all time, and why it's one of the failings of Attack of the Clones. I'm sorry, The Phantom Menace. Too much crazy fake politics in it. And there was obviously a lot of real world politics in that one. I'm not going to get into it. But that's why that movie sucks in comparison to Star Wars. And sorry, I got off topic there. The hit series, probably talking about Attack on Titan, prominently features themes of nationalism, militarization, and how members of oppressed groups become radicalized by their oppressors. Given Japan's complex relationship to World War II and Nazi Germany, the German-inspired setting and constant references to World War II imagery throughout Attack on Titan are inherently political in nature. Though what the series is using these images to say is still a hotly debated topic. Oh, you mean you weren't hit over the head so hard you don't know exactly what the writer was trying to portray? He thought that the reader was smart enough to come up with their own interpretation and feeling about the work. What are the common complaints about the North American comic book industry? These are terrible examples, and it's actually, if anything, highlighting why manga is superior right now to American comic books. And also, it talks about prominently featured themes. That's far different than a political statement. There are always themes within books, and they can be political in nature. When people say they're tired of politics and comic books, they're tired of the propaganda. They're tired of being hit over the sledgehammer. They're tired of being told how to think. They're tired of not being able to read the story and enjoy it without being told how they have to interpret it. And that's the issue. That's what the American comic book industry don't get. I don't want to know about John Kent if Tom Taylor was John Kent, because Tom Taylor's not interesting. He's not a fucking superhero. He's just some dipshit from Australia. And once again, they're talking about World War II in Nazi Germany. Once again, using events from 50 years ago, not using modern events to influence the reader. It's clear just from these examples of why manga were always political, just like American comic books. American comic books weren't always political. They are too political in nature right now. Manga haven't always been political, and it sounds like they aren't now right now either. And that's why people are going over there and finding refuge in manga rather than American comics. And until the American comic industry acknowledges their failing and stops trying to tell people that they're wrong and that the way that they're reading, that you just don't know how to read. Yeah, these are lifelong comic book readers. They know how to comprehend comic books. They know how to read stories, and they know how to interpret them. And they know when they're being fed a line of crap, or they know when they read something that they hate. And they're going to continue to go over to manga and other forms of entertainment. You can't make them stop. It's their money, and that's all there is to it. Now, if you are interested in ways that the American comic book industry can compete with manga and perhaps learn from it, I do have a video. I talked with my good friend Perch from Comics by Perch about 2 ways Marvel and DC can actually compete with manga by learning from them. If you haven't watched this video, I think you'll really like it, and I think you should check it out.